where it's cold, and then the next morning I got up and started cooking it. So,
That's
oh,
awesome.
people are joining in, so that's awesome.
Cool.
But it was
That's
great
awesome.
talking with you, Laura.
Yeah, nice visiting with you too. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Morning, everyone. How's it going?
Good, bro. How are you, man?
Doing well, doing well. How was everyone's Thanksgiving?
Great. Good
Oh,
morning.
Awesome.
amazing.
Nice.
Good
Morning.
morning. Happy belated
Good
Thanksgiving.
morning. Good morning. Yeah.
Good morning.
Let me get this light.
I have my fan on. Does anybody hear the fan?
No,
All right, perfect. All right, great. How was your Thanksgiving, Ava?
it was good. Too much food.
That's good. That's good.
I alone cooked. We had a Friendsgiving, so I alone just had like 3 trays of food, so that would have been enough.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah,
That's
so we all
awesome.
had leftovers, but it was cool. How was yours?
It was awesome. It was great. Had a great time with family. So, what's up,
Nice.
Alex?
What's up, Chris? How's it going?
Go ahead, man. We're just talking about Thanksgiving.
Cool. How's that brisket?
Fire, bro. It was dope.
Brisket.
Yeah, I made a brisket. Yeah, I've told everybody about it. I'm pretty proud of it. So, it was dope. Yeah,
You gotta
everybody
give us the
like.
recipe.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you guys have a pellet smoker, I don't man the fire. I don't actually do the fire. So if you have a pellet smoker, I can give you the recipe and how it works out. So yeah,
Nice.
Nice.
yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, I guess we'll give it a couple more minutes here, let some more people join up. We're gonna go over 2 deals and just do like an underwriting review on those, answer any questions with those specific deals. A lot of this stuff is just repetition in terms of what's a deal and what isn't a deal and getting a better understanding of that. So we're gonna do a few of those, and then we have a couple updates, kind of I wouldn't necessarily call it a contest, but something new, like a little bonus thing for leads. And yeah, so you already shared a bit about your Thanksgiving cruise and the brisket. Anyone else do anything fun or exciting? Alex and I went to, well, I guess this was the day before Thanksgiving, but there was a local meetup out here where we are in LA in Pasadena with Pace Morby, Jamil, and wasn't really a like a workshop or anything like that. It was more just a networking / like charity event. That was pretty cool. But that's about as exciting as it was for me. And then I just went to a steakhouse for Thanksgiving. So
How what kind of takeaways did you guys have from that day with them?
yeah. So honestly, like in terms of actual real estate stuff and learning stuff, it wasn't really like a seminar or a workshop or anything like that or a mastermind. It was more just a networking event where we met a lot of new people, which was really cool. And always just solidifying your presence and, kind of getting in people's radar is a big too. Like us seeing Pace at these different events over and over again. Now we're kind of getting on his radar more. And then, also just networking with others as well. But I guess the big takeaway is, and someone told me this a while ago, it's like purpose-driven real estate or purpose-driven investing. So it was pretty interesting with that because I forgot the name of the place, Alex, or exactly what it was, but it was basically
Family.
Family problem.
Family Promise. Yeah. So Pace was basically talking about how a couple of his properties in Arizona, he's going to use those for Family Promise for homeless people where they can stay. And, stuff like that's just a win-win scenario. And I was talking with someone probably a few months ago. We never ended up actually doing deals together, but she had a big focus on purpose-driven real estate where it's not just about, hey, let's make a buck, let's make money. It's about, well, hey, everyone can win and it's for a good cause and we feel good about what we're doing. And that was kind of one thing that was pretty much that whole meetup was based around that, doing good for others and helping others as it was a charity event. So like Pace is providing housing for people. He's taking over deals sub 2 where someone's in a distress scenario and he's taking over their payments. So he's helping someone out there. He's then providing housing for those in need. And then he's also, of course, it's an investment for him. He's getting a property for super cheap. He has someone paying the mortgage. He's making a little bit of money on top of that. And it's really like a full circle win-win for everyone. So, because I know previously before I got involved with sub 2 and I was just doing a lot of the cash wholesale deals, it was just people were just money, 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 and not really focused on the big picture of helping others and seeing it come around full circle. So it's always cool actually being in a community like that and seeing it firsthand. Yeah. anything you wanted to share or add to that, Alex?
No, I mean, you covered everything. It's cool to be able to give back, but also have it make sense for us. And one thing that Pace mentioned that kind of opened up my mind was that um, these charities and these companies are great people to reach out to when trying to find renters. And so that was just one thing I wanted to throw out there, what you kind of touched on already.
Gotcha.
Can you share the website or whatever that is?
I'll put it in the.
Thank you.
Yep.
Because I'm personally interested in buying also real estate and renting it out, and instead of just doing like a Section 8, if they're like low house qualities, to help with that would be also great.
I had a question with the vetting process. I saw their video on it. There was like a hike that they did in Vegas, and the leader, I guess, of that section, she talked about it. Did Pace go into depth on the vetting process? Because she said that they vet the people that go into those programs, and they see if they've already been helped in the past, and they just don't get it. It's like to help those people out. So my question is, did he go into depth on the vetting process?
I don't believe he did, right, Alex? I don't remember him mentioning that. The vetting process. You're muted.
Thanks. It was just more so about what Family Promise does.
Yeah.
Much like
Okay.
Yeah.
vetting.
And it's something that interests me and I want to learn more about, right? Because I mean, we were there and they just kind of mentioned it and told their story, but it was mainly networking and people were bringing donations and things like that. But that's something super interesting, to have potential tenants already lined up to rent properties out to, and then you're creating win-wins and helping others out. So it's something that I definitely want to look more into.
You may put in the chat that video I'm talking about where she's explaining exactly how everything
Yeah,
goes.
sure,
Yeah,
sure.
alright,
I'd be interested to see that. I'm sure some other people would be too.
cool. See if I can find it real quick.
Awesome. Any last minute things people want to mention for a minute or two before we dive into a couple deals here that we want to analyze?
There's also on YouTube, just put in Family Promise. The videos are about a year old now, but there was 3 of them. And it told more about the individual process. And like, for instance, just the full circle nature of the situation. Let's say there's a single parent who loses their job for whatever reason or gets hurt on the job. They're collecting 60%, but guess what? That's not enough. They end up with an eviction. The eviction's on their record. Now they can't find a place. So now they're living in the car. Well, then the state finds out the children are in the car. And I mean, the dad, the mom, whoever it is, they're doing the best they can, but they take the children. So it's a horrible situation. And there's very, very little family. Where do families go? There's places for men, there's places for women, there's very few places for families. So that's what that was about. Now, also, there's not that, I'm not going to say there's not a bunch of them, but depends on where everybody's at. I'm in the middle of Kansas. There are 3 in Kansas, 3 cities, and it's obviously the big cities. So anyway, okay, that's it. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that, Laura. I'm curious, are you in sub 2, Laura, or how did you know so much about Family Promise? Thank you for sharing that.
Actually, I'm Gator Elite now, and I'm trying to learn sub 2, so I make sure I don't get myself in trouble. So the working on what is a deal, what isn't a deal, this is right up my alley, what I need to know. Anyway, the reason I know about it is because I've been working with reentry housing and sober living housing, and working with the state, and this falls right in that realm, and then when you start talking about midterm rentals, that's another situation, but on a professional end generally. So this was, oh my gosh, there is a place for families. I just wasn't aware of it. So anyway, that's how.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Thanks for Thanks for sharing that. I'd love to learn more about that stuff too. Not only family promise, but sober living and also assisted living facilities and things like that. So it'd be great to chat some other time about that too, or maybe delegate a little section of our Zoom if you wanted to share some more things about that. But I appreciate the info there.
You're welcome. Anytime.
And then in terms of, I guess back to the deal stuff, what's a deal and what's not a deal? We had two examples that Alex and I wanted to go over just for reference for people to see. Because I know, like, if you're calling a listing on market and you're speaking with the agent and the agent's telling you, yeah, the seller just moved, they want to sell their house, it can sound kind of like exciting and promising. But at the same time, if a house is listed on the MLS, there's of course going to be motivation there and a reason why that person wants to sell their house. So we did kind of make a new video in terms of like what's a deal, what's not a deal, putting emphasis on that and the criteria to classify something as being a deal or not a deal. So two examples we'll go over. One is a deal we have in escrow right now, and then another deal is, I guess, also something we have in escrow, but it's a JV deal. One's a cash deal and one's a creative sub-2 deal. And it's never black and white with this stuff. It's always like, I wish it was, because then it'd be super easy to analyze this stuff. But we'll just kind of explain why one of these is a deal. Well, why they're both deals in our opinions, but we are having trouble with one of them because we had two buyers kind of just go ghost and not be fun to deal with. And then with Thanksgiving and the holidays in place, it's just been a mess. And then the agent's in Mexico right now on a vacation and she doesn't have internet access. She just texted me, Alex. So it's just a mess, but we're hoping it's still a deal and we can get a move. But let me screen share here. Or actually, I'm going to pull up first a sheet. I should do a numbers breakdown just so it's visualized for everyone instead of just talking about it. Wouldn't you say, Alex? Let me get that pulled up.
Do I need to make you close, or can you?
Yeah, you probably will. I'm just pulling this up really quick though. I just want to have it up before I share my screen. And it's interesting. The creative deal, it really only works for like a homestead buyer or if someone wanted to wrap it, meaning that they took over the property sub-2 and then they.
Are you doing Chandler, or are you doing the Bridgestone property?
Oh, I was gonna do Chandler.
Okay, let's do 3 then, because I think the Bridgestone is a little better to analyze. But yeah,
I feel like we've already looked at Bridgestone. Maybe. I don't know. I think we did before we got it under contract, but that was a while ago and there's new people in here and we could talk about how it fell out of contract and then we got it back under contract at a much better price. So I guess we could do that. Yeah. 1 second here. I'm just pulling up the underwriting thing here. Let's see. All right, perfect. I'll screen share. So this is the Chandler one. All right. So this one is a townhome in Chandler, which is just in that general Phoenix metro area in Arizona. And the interest rate, I'll just do a quick numbers breakdown with everything here just so we can all visually see it. So it was listed at 510. This is a scenario kind of strange where the seller purchased this house about 7 months ago and never moved into it. He's an older guy. It's just been vacant. And I guess something changed with his schedule or planning where he was like, hey, I'm never actually going to move into this house and I better just sell it. And unfortunately, he bought it at a time where the market's kind of been shifting and turning as rates have risen. And his remaining balance is like 503,000. And the house is literally worth probably like a little less than 500. So he's at an issue where accounting for agent commission and closing costs, if he sells it at 510, which he's not, it's been on market for 86 days, no real solid offers yet, he would be taking like at least a $20,000 loss, probably more than that if he sold it traditionally. Whereas with this scenario, we're coming in and taking over his existing payments and paying him $1,000 at closing, which is better than, of course, writing a big check. Yeah, I'll dive into the issues with this property in a second. So the appealing thing about it is the entry fee is so low. That's what makes this a deal. Like if the entry fee was high, it's something that would definitely not be a deal. Meaning high, meaning closer to that 10% rule, because there is always exceptions. Like it's never black and white. So if this was a 10% entry close to 50,000, it wouldn't be a deal. But our entry here is $1,000 cash to seller. Was it 1,000 or 2, Alex? I'm trying to remember.
I think it was 1,000.
Yeah, whatever. It's still super low if it's 2. And then the agent commission was. The agent's commission was. Is there a seller finance portion on here or something? Oh yeah, that's why. Yeah, the agent's commission was $15,000. So essentially the only entry fee to get this house is agent commission, which is 15 grand plus the 1K to seller. So $16,000 plus closing costs, and then our assignment fee is someone's entry fee. So our assignment fee on it was, I think, 8 grand. So someone could get this $500,000 really nice looking townhome in Chandler in a really nice area for less than $30,000. They can get into that house for less than 30 grand without having to qualify for a bank or anything like that. So here's the issues though. So the entry fee is low, but the issues with this property is the main one is the monthly payment super high. So the interest rate's 5.75, which is not good, but it's not awful. At least it's not like 7 or 8. Definitely not good. But the issue with that 5.75% interest rate on a 503K balance is that monthly payment was. Do you know off the top of your head, Alex? So I don't have to pull up the marketing copy. I think it was 3,000.
It's
3,200
plus 200 for HOA.
For HOA, yeah. So the PITI is roughly 3,200, and then the HOA is another 220. So someone's total monthly payment on this house is $3,400, and the rent rate for this house is max 2,600. That's max. That's if you maybe convert the loft into a 3rd bedroom. So you're bleeding about $1,000 a month if you kept this as a long-term rental. So.
And Jack, should we maybe show how we find our rental comps just for everyone's?
Yeah. Yep. So I'll go to Renometer here. And this is a little tricky here. I'm just going to say 2-bed, 2.5 bath. You could technically make it a 3-bed, but you'd have to put up a wall to block off the loft. So we'll just say it's a 2. And just because it's a 2, it says it's lower, like 2,200. So theoretically there, you're bleeding like $1,200 a month as a long-term rental, which is really bad. And then one way to actually see those specific comps is, and this isn't free to do this. This is Renometer Pro, but you can go Renometer for free, and you can have like a trial run, or you can go to Rentcast as well, but you just can't see specific comps with unless you have this. I just like the interface of this. So what I'll do here is I'll look at specific comps and look in comparison to what the subject property looks like, and then just kind of go from there and see where I likely think this would end up renting. So you can see all these different comps here, the radius or the distance from where our subject property is, what it rented for, when it was last seen on the market for rent, and the price per square footage, the bed and bath count, things like that. So I'm curious, like this one I'd want to check out because it's a higher end one as to because it rented for 2,400. So I would just look at something like that. That's weird. It doesn't pop up. Not all the time these addresses are going to show up, because sometimes if it's like an apartment complex and it doesn't give a unit number, it'll just show like a street view of a big commercial building, which we don't want. Let me see this one here. This one may show. Perfect. This one showed. I also think this is a, luxury apartments. So it's not going to show that specific unit. It's just going to show the outside, unfortunately, which makes it a bit trickier looking for actual comps for townhomes and apartments if they're in a like gated community HOA type of deal, especially for apartments. But at least looking on here, though, you can see the prices, the price per square foot, and the bed and bath count. And yeah, all these are apartments and condos. So that makes sense why I can't see the exact specifics of them. If you went to apartments.com and we dug deeper, I'm sure we could find them specifically. But I'm assuming these are all like nicer, newer apartments just based off what they're renting for. And potentially, I think our rent on ours is a little higher then because it's a townhome. And these are individual apartments and condos, where a townhome is nicer than that. Not quite like a house that's individually by itself and has a big yard and things like that, but you would get definitely more rent for a townhome than you would a condo for sure. And that makes sense what that agent was telling that potential buyer, Alex. I think that agent said you could probably get like 25, 26 for it. Versus what this is showing. This is showing like 2,200, but it's, I think the Renometer is assuming that this is an apartment and not a townhome because it's showing the comps in the area and it's just showing condo, condo, apartment, apartment, apartment. None of them are saying townhome or house.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's never black and white with this stuff. A lot of it's just making like educated assumptions and guesses to what would be most accurate. But that's how we're going about it in terms of finding rental comps, Renometer or Rentcast.
Can you just pull up like available on market rentals on Zillow?
Yeah.
That would
Yeah,
be-
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that right now. I won't run through Rentcast. Rentcast is simple. You're just inputting that that address in and looking at the comps. So let's look up Chandler, Arizona. And I know our place was right down here,
By the
Wisteria.
I think.
Huh?
It's by the airport.
Yeah. Or actually I can just post the address in there. That's easier if I just do that.
You could just even look in the zip code as well.
Yeah, true. I'll just do that and zoom out a bit. Yeah, so our property's right there. And then I will go for rent. Just to have it somewhat accurate, we'll do use exact match, 2-bedroom, 2+ bath, apply. And oh, okay, that's actually bizarre. Shoot, maybe we buy this, Alex. No, I'm just kidding, because this is right across the street and it's showing 30. Well, actually, there's no way people are buying or renting this though. So that's showing a 2-bed, 2-bath for $3,500, which is absurdly overpriced. I can just tell you that right now. That's absurdly overpriced. One thing to always look at too is the amount of days it's been listed for rent and the amount of contacts too. I'm surprised that even has 2 contacts. But yeah, I'm surprised that that one's listed for that much. And then let's see here.
Doesn't
So
really there's too many.
There's not a lot. There's not a lot. I see, because these are units of apartment buildings, not actual houses or townhomes. But I see like a 2.7K over here. That's a house though in Chandler, and that's going to be significantly larger in square footage. Yeah, so this one's not that good to analyze in terms of comps. And this is just going to be apartments. Yeah, these are just apartment units, which you can't really compare to townhomes or houses. But that's a fluke. This is 100% a fluke. This one asking $3,500 a month for it. Because that's like absurdly high, especially like I don't care what neighborhood it is. And maybe if it's like a super high end area, Scottsdale, then you could say, hey, that might make sense. But this being in like Chandler area, which is still a nice area, there's no way that property is going to rent for that much, especially when you looked at the Renometer and the other estimates showing that being that much lower. That person's definitely asking way too much for their house for rent. So that's just a quick overview with that. We can look at this again on one of the cash deals or that Houston one, because I know the Houston home has a ton of comps. This one was just kind of I guess a bad example. So yeah, so the thing I want to mention too is that monthly payment, like I said, that's $3,400 a month. And that fluke, that's not right. The rent's closer to $2,500. So you're losing about $1,000 a month if you kept this as a rental. So you could literally give someone this house for free, and if they wanted to use it as a long-term rental, it still might not be a deal for them because they're losing $1,000 every single month for a long period of time until rents rise and they start cash flowing, which that's probably like 10 years or something until they start cash flowing. So the exit on this is, okay, hey, it's a homestead buyer who can't qualify for traditional financing, or they want a lower interest rate than what they would be able to typically get. And they can also get it for a low down payment or entry fee, because that entry would be less than 6% to get into a house, which isn't much more than like putting down, you know, an FHA loan or something like that in that 3 to 5% range. Or so that's a homestead buyer, or this could work for an investor if they wanted to do a wrap, meaning that they bought the house from us and then they were going to do what I just described and try to find a homestead buyer who wanted to live in it. And they would then owner finance it to that homestead buyer at probably, instead of a 5.75 rate, they'd probably owner finance it at like a 7. So it's still a percent or so lower than current market rate. And then that would allow them to make like a percent spread or a couple $100 a month off of a note they would hold. And then the down payment they would get from that homestead buyer would ideally be enough to cover their entry fee. So they make a little money up front. So those are really the only two exits with this. That makes sense because the long-term rental, it bleeds heavily. And then short-term rental, there is an HOA and some sort of restrictions on there, and the numbers don't look too good anyway for that. Anything you wanted to add, Alex? Because that's everything I went over for that one. I was going to move to the cash deal now.
No, I think you covered everything on that one.
Okay, cool. So any questions on that one really quick before I jump to the next one?
So this would be a wrap deal potentially.
That's the exit for it. That would make sense. Yeah. Either someone buying it to live in it as their own homestead, or an investor buying it to wrap to a homestead buyer. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Just because it bleeds super heavily as a long-term rental, and there's not really any other exits there other than just simply like arbitraging that interest rate with the low entry fee. So
I have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead.
Finish up. You guys can finish.
Yeah,
Okay, I was just gonna ask. Hey, Jack, it's Austin. I was just
Austin.
gonna ask, since it's being close to the airport, would it not be possible to do like any smart or any type of like short-term rental advertisement?
You potentially, so there's HOA rental restrictions on this one, and it's kind of a gray area because it's like you can submit something with the HOA to try to get that restriction revoked, but there's only a limited amount of townhomes or houses in that neighborhood that can have short-term rental access and approval. So I don't know the exact specifics with that for this particular property in terms of how you would get approval for the HOA. I know this is a 6-month minimum long-term rental, but then when I did look on Airbnb and I zoomed in that neighborhood, I did see a couple of places that were renting that had rooms available for rent. But yeah, that's something where like Alex and I didn't really plan on taking this one down ourselves. Like that's more so of our end buyers who might be interested to kind of do their due diligence and see if it's something that would work for them. And trying to figure out those specific rules with the HOA if they wanted to contact them and figure it out. But I think the HOA seems like it's pretty strict with its restrictions though.
Gotcha.
Yeah. That's a good point though. Thanks for bringing that up. Because yeah, right across the street from an airport, that would be like a perfect spot for a potential midterm or short term.
And then for midterm, what would the rent be on for a midterm in that location for that bed and bath number?
I'm not 100% sure actually. That's something we could totally check on. We just didn't check it. Honestly, like in terms of midterm rental and short-term rental, like Airbnbs and midterm, Alex and I haven't done a whole lot of those. That's usually something we're leaving for our buyers to do their due diligence on, because I know everyone's going to run numbers differently. Like we had a deal outside of Tampa that we were trying to move, and some guys like, well, hey, my numbers will be this if I add a dock and connect it to the lake, or if I do this, it'll be this. So we're really just focused on like providing long-term rental comps, and then mainly letting our buyers do their own due diligence. Of course, we want to know exit strategies for us though, of course, when we're underwriting to make sure it makes sense before we lock something up under contract. But we could check rental comps for midterms too. My mind went blank. What's that website called, Alex, for the midterm rental? Is it Furnish Finder? Is that it? I'm trying to remember.
Or midterm rental, and then
yeah,
there's also a website that can help with finding short-term rental. Forgot what it's called though.
Yeah, AirDNA can give you a rough estimate on like the projected annual revenue Furnish Finders one for the midterm. This one, Joe, though, with just the restrictions on it, I don't think it would work with the HOA requiring a 6-month plus. And it seems like they're very limited with exemptions for that, because I think I just saw one house that had rooms for rent on there in that whole neighborhood. Yeah. And then Heather, did you have a question?
I did, yes. I was wondering when you do work with your end buyers, like if it ends up being a homestead buyer, then would your fee be their down payment?
So well, essentially, like their down payment to get the house would be this whole breakdown, right? So their down payment to get the house would be that 29K. It would be our assignment fee of 8 grand, the closing costs, the cash to seller, and the agent commission. So that would be their quote unquote down payment to get the house and take over payments.
Okay.
Yeah. So they would be essentially paying all this stuff would be considered their down payment, like our assignment and that whole breakdown there. Or if
Okay.
we did find a homestead buyer, we could do something a bit different and wrap it ourselves to them. So instead of making an assignment fee, we could arbitrage that interest rate and we could wrap it to them at like a 7% interest rate and maybe bring down their down payment slightly. So we make a little more money monthly. Well, if we assigned it, we wouldn't make any money monthly because we're just assigning the contract to them. Whereas if we
Right.
did a wrap and we financed it to them ourselves and we acted like the bank, we would then make a spread between the 5.75% interest rate and then whatever we wrapped it at, which I think if we wrapped it at like 6.75 or 7, that's like $300 or $400 a month we would make there.
Okay.
Yeah, and just
Indefinitely.
one thing to note with the wraps, it's like when you close on it, you could basically pull levers on it. So if someone comes up to you and says, "Hey, I only have 30K down, but I could afford $4,000 monthly payments," well, then you know that because their down payment is on the lower side, because realistically with these wrap deals, everyone's goal is to hit around 10% down. So in this case, if you were to hit 10% down, you're going to be walking away with 20K once you find that wrap buyer, which typically can take in between 1 to 6 months. So you also want to factor in holding costs when you're doing wraps or even long-term rentals, because you don't know how long the property is going to be vacant until you find that renter. And so if you know that they could bring a lot down but don't have much money to put for the monthly payment, then you know that that's someone you're going to want to collect a higher down payment because you're only going up maybe half a point on the interest rate.
Yeah, very true. Very
Okay.
true.
Thank you.
All right. So I'm going to jump over to the cash deal now. So this cash deal, this was the JV deal that was brought to me. And honestly, like for cash deals, like I've said before, we need to be significantly lower for cash deals when we're buying something all cash. There are going to be some exceptions to it. I don't really want to go into that now too much, because if we're working with institutions and stuff like that, they can pay a higher ARV and a higher payment or entry fee than just a traditional cash buyer. But for this one, this guy got it locked up dirt cheap, and he just needed help finding a buyer for it. We're marketing it out right now. We're getting a decent amount of feedback. It's just been tough because we started marketing it the last couple of days, and the last couple of days, Thanksgiving, the holidays. So a lot of people aren't on their computers trying to buy houses. But I think we'll still get it moved. So the assessed value for this property was 31,000. I think the assessed land value too was decent as well. I'm trying to remember exactly. Let me log into PropStream here. But essentially this guy got it locked up at $6,000. So I would be concerned if you locked up a property at $6,000 and it was a tear down, I would be a little concerned. Just because, okay, I remember the land value on this being around 20,000. So if you even get something locked up for 6K and it's a tear down, you have to consider, okay, how much is it going to cost tearing all this stuff down, and how much is it going to cost hauling all this junk out? So if you do that, you might be at 20,000, right? It could cost an additional 10 grand for that, and then now you don't have a deal here. So that was one of my initial concerns, but then after looking at pictures and everything, it looks structurally sound. I mean, it doesn't look like a beautiful 5-star home or anything, but it looks structurally sound, and it doesn't look like a teardown in my opinion at all. So It does need a full gut interior rehab though. And there was which I'll pull up in a sec. There was a comp on the MLS that recently sold for like 50 something thousand. So, and it was a full gut interior, needed to be gutted. So us having this locked up at 6K, I think we're marketing it right now at 25, which I'd be very surprised if we can't find someone for this. And I was kind of joking around, like telling Alex, like if we can't find someone for this, like literally closing it on it ourselves and just throwing it up on the MLS might not be a terrible idea. Just because it does look very structurally sound, in my opinion. The roof doesn't look bad at all. It just seems like the interior needs to be gutted. And in terms of comps for that, let me see. So the reason why this works as a cash deal, like if we got them under contract any higher than 20K, I would say probably not a deal. But with us having such a large spread here, I'd be super surprised if we couldn't move this house. And another thing to mention too with this house is it's in Buffalo, Iowa, which is a really small city right here on the Mississippi River. But Buffalo is like a 15-minute drive from Davenport, which has like a population of over 100,000. So it's really close to that large metro city, which is important to notice. Because if this metro city wasn't here and this was just in the middle of nowhere by itself, even at that cheap price, I would still probably be like, hey, I don't know if there's a buyer for this. But with it being close to that major city, that definitely increases the odds and makes it a lot more appealing. So this guy actually bought this for 11K in 2010, I guess. That's funny. So in terms of comparables, or actually I'll go on Zillow just because I know everyone has Zillow and not everyone has PropStream. So I'll go on Zillow here to this little Buffalo city, which is literally like 8 streets of stuff. We'll go to let's see here. Just want to see houses. And I rarely use Zillow. Let's see. Sold in the last, let's see, 90 days.
Do 6 months. There's
6
not
months.
any
Yeah.
bulk.
Okay. Okay. This is the one I was thinking of, the one that sold for 52K. So this sold for 52K. It's a little smaller than our property. And it's a full like interior. So it looks similar on the outside. And it's like a full interior gut. I don't know what ours looks like on the inside. We don't have interior pictures, but even if ours looked worse than this, it doesn't matter because this is like a full gut. It needs to be completely gutted on the inside and redone, which I'm assuming ours is like that as well. So this was like a full gut rehab that needed to be done on the inside. And it doesn't look, I wouldn't say it looks nicer on the outside than our property. I mean, I guess to an extent it does slightly, but all really you need is just new paint on ours. And this one I'm assuming would need new paint anyway. So, and ours is a $30,000 discount from this one. So that's the one comp that I definitely wanted to show, which is justifying why we think we can get at least 25K for ours, because ours also has like an extra 100 square feet compared to this property. And then I didn't really look at any other comps, Alex, to be honest with you. I think like these ones that you're seeing for like 138, 136, 126, these are probably like finished. These are like finished. Yeah. So these are like fully renovated homes that have been, finished and then are flipped and listed on the market. So essentially with ours, like if you're buying something for 20K and putting, it'd probably need like 60 to 80K of work to get it fully renovated and modern. You still have a decent spread there to make a little bit of money on a flip. But say if Alex and I were fixing flippers ourselves and we sourced that deal for $6,000 and we put in 50, 60K of work to get it in that condition, now we just had like a $70,000, $80,000 spread. And this was a direct to seller off market deal where I think this guy's VA just called this lead and got it under contract. So you can get some really crazy spreads when you're doing direct to seller stuff, because usually direct to agent, don't get me wrong, you can still get good cash deals on there, but it's mainly more of us sourcing these creative deals as another option. But to get those like massive spreads, You really need like direct to seller stuff and just finding a distressed seller, right place, right time, who, my assumption is, I'm trying to go back to it here. My assumption is this guy was just an older seller who had had this house for a while, and it's just been sitting there vacant for ages. And basically he was like, sure, $6,000. It's sitting there. I'm paying taxes on it every year. I'm not doing anything with it. I'll take $6,000. Yeah. So anything you wanted to mention, Alex? I kind of just blanked here.
I mean, just showing the comps, I feel like that
was pretty much it. Yeah.
it was pretty
There's
helpful.
not really, yeah, like the creative stuff, there's a lot more components to analyze. The cash stuff, it's really just like, okay, what's the ARV on this? Where am I at? And when we're at $6,000, like locked up, there's a huge spread there.
Jack,
Yeah.
maybe explaining, I know this one, it's not really that 60% of ARV, but maybe just doing a breakdown of what, like, how would I know what to offer on this home to make it a deal for us?
Yeah.
Other than
Yeah.
looking at comps, right? Because looking at comps and seeing that a property sold for 52K about 10 days ago, and it's a little bit smaller, I believe. I could be wrong, but I
It
think
is. It is.
it's a little smaller
Oh,
still,
it's about the same size. Yeah.
and it needs work. And
Yeah, it does. It does.
it sold for that.
Yeah. And I mean, this was assessed for 31,000. So like another thing too, like, and it isn't always accurate, but like a general rule of thumb for wholesalers on like cash deals, like if you're getting something locked up under the assessed value, it's usually a decent margin because usually the assessed value is lower than market value anyway. And I'd say this assessed value for this is probably somewhat spot on because like that's where we're trying to sell it. We're trying to sell it a little bit below the assessed value. But in terms of actually like calculating what we'd want to offer on this one's a little tricky because theoretically, Alex, we don't actually know the interior bed and bath count. Zillow's telling us this, but the wholesaler told me it's just a full gut on the inside. He's not 100% sure on the bed and bath count. That's what the seller told him. But I mean, theoretically, if it's a full gut, it needs a full remodel anyway. It's just dependent upon plumbing and things like that. But I'm assuming it's probably a 3-1, so we'll just go off that, I guess, because that helps with comping and whatnot. And definitely seeing what you want to offer to it. It helps if you have interior pictures, just so you get an idea of the condition. So for us though, just hearing full gut, we're assuming it needs like the worst of the worst. And just like I said, it's a full gut. So it needs a full heavy rehab. So that's why we're shooting up on the higher end of things and assuming like probably 60 to 80K. But essentially what we would do to find the ARV from that, like I said, I'm familiar with PropStream. I set my filters on PropStream for matching the bed and bath count of that house. I'll match the square footage. It kind of auto generates to a couple hundred, within a couple hundred range from the lower end and the higher end per square foot. I like the distance at like a half a mile radius. And you can see here the map where it'll show the subject property and then it'll have like the comps there. And then I always like to try to do within, since this is a smaller town, like Alex said, we probably want to do 6 months. But usually I'll try to go less than 3 months. Oh yeah, I didn't know that comp Alex actually sold like super recently. That's kind of cool.
16 of this month.
So that's really good. That helps us move this because that it's not like that comp sold 8 months ago. So I like to use PropStream just because I like the interface and the way things show up. Of course, you can use Zillow as well too, like kind of like we just showed. But what I would do is I'd look at the square footage here. This is 1,100. This other one, this one comp we're looking at. Okay, this one comp was actually 6 feet square feet larger. So pretty much exactly the same size though. And it sold for $43 a square foot. That was the guess, or that's the estimate. So $43 per square foot. What I'd do is I'd multiply that 43 by the 1194. And then that pretty much the exact same thing is saying like our house could theoretically go for 51K if it looked pretty similar to that comp that sold. Because that comp that sold was a fixer. I feel like ours is probably in worse shape though. Don't get me wrong, that was a major fixer that needed work, but I think ours is like a little more gutted than that. So I think giving some sort of reduction on that 50K, like I think that 20K reduction makes sense. I haven't seen interior pictures though, so it's kind of just a guessing game. But then basically, if we're looking at like the typical formula for calculating like cash deals is you're going to look at your house as the subject, and then you're going to look at comps or the ARV. So like the ARV, you're not going to look at that $53,000 comp that sold. You're going to look at like a fully renovated home that was just flipped and sold on the market. And what you would do with that is you would look at, I just for time's sake, I'm not going to pull it up, but that one, like I saw one for 136,000. So if one of those was 136,000, what you'd want to do with that is you would take that square footage, that price per square footage of the 136,000 and a couple other comps. We have a video on this too of like finding the ARV on a specific house. So let's say I found 3 comps, I got the average price per square foot, and it ended up being, let me see here. Shoot, I kind of just want to show this actually, just because. Sold. So we'll just do this one, for example, randomly. Let's see here. I'd rather prefer a single family, 1 story. Okay, cool. So to get our property to look like this one, let's say we needed like 60K of work. It's probably a little more, probably 60 to 80. But basically this house sold for, let me just make sure that Zillow estimate's right, but it sold for 134,500. And then what I would do is to find the price per square foot, I would divide by the square footage of the house. So that's $107 per square foot if we round. 107 per square foot. And then with our subject property, 107 times 1194, which that's the square footage of our subject property. So theoretically right there, we get 127,000. That's what our subject property would be worth if we fully renovated it and made it look like this one right here. So the thing to consider is how much money is that going to cost to make it look like that? And of course, when you're selling a deal to a flipper, they want a spread. And that general rule of thumb for wholesaling is 70% of ARV minus repairs. And that's what you should be offering. In a town like this, though, where it's kind of on the outskirts of that big town and it's not like Houston, Dallas, or a super major market, I think 65% of that ARV value is more appropriate. So what I would do then is I would just take that 127K and I'd multiply that by 0.65, which would put you at about 85,000. And then I would subtract the rough estimated repairs. So we'll say 60,000. So then that theoretically says that like my max allowable offer that I could give that person, not including my wholesale fee, would be around 20,000. But if we get it at 6,000, like we do now, just based off looking at this comp and the after repair value, there's a 14K spread for us there. And that might have been confusing as F. So I apologize if that was confusing as F.
Yeah, does anyone have any questions and want a little bit more clarification on that? Because it's a lot to take in.
It is.
Once you
Yeah, I was trying to figure out like, okay, you went from 34 to times the 1,100 square. I'm just rounding up the figures, 1,100 square feet. Is that like a contractor's fee of how much it would cost a contractor to get that done? It does an estimated amount, and then you went to the other amount. I don't know. I'm trying to kind of put these numbers together.
So in terms of just estimating repair costs, a lot of that is just general rule of thumb. We can actually, I don't know if we shared that sheet. I can share it in the group, Alex, of like the estimated price per square footage for a light rehab, a moderate rehab, a heavy rehab. I've done a decent amount of the cash wholesale deals. Like in Texas, that's kind of what I started doing. So I'm just kind of just giving rough ballpark figure range. You don't need to be exact because a lot of these flippers, they're going to do their own thing. Like I've had a flipper walk a house before and he tells me this needs 120K of work. And then I have another local guy who has his own little crew who's like, I'll do this, I can do this for 50, 60K. Of course, his quality of flip isn't going to be as nice as that other person's, but just general rule of thumb wise, like a light cosmetic would be about $10, $15 a square foot, a moderate $25 a square foot, and like a major fixer closer to like $50 a square foot. I can share like a comping sheet though, and an ARV analysis sheet. Do I actually have that already? I think I have it.
Like, do you have like a whiteboard that maybe, like kind of put the numbers in there? Because you mentioned, let me see, you guys have purchased the house at 6,000. That's what it was sold to, right?
Yeah.
And then, but is it worth the 52,000 or is it worth the 120?
Sorry. Yeah.
7 or 159?
So as is, like I was showing that one comp that sold like 3 weeks ago, which was the fixer. Like as is, you could say it's probably kind of close to that because that other house was the fixer and ours is probably in that same condition or maybe a little worse. So that was like more of the as is current value. But if you want the ARV or the after repair value, meaning after it's been fixed and is in fully renovated condition, it would be about 127. That was that like after repair value I was getting based on that comp I looked at in the square footage. Yeah.
Okay.
And then this
Gotcha.
is just a random sheet that I have here that was just kind of showing some things. And we could share this in the Discord in terms of like if one property has an extra bedroom or an extra bath, you would make like an according adjustment, add or subtract 10 to 25K, bathroom add or subtract 10K, some basic things like that. I don't think this one is showing the adjustment for the price per square footage though, for a light fixer, moderate fixer, major fixer, but we can share something like that too.
So like when you, for instance, like you got the property at 6,000, do you think it's wise to, because looking at the property, like to do a little bit of a kind of a little curb appeal in the front?
Oh,
just to kind
100%.
of turn it over quicker and just kind of clarify it in, in the details, it needs to be gutted out. But at least it looks presentable in the front or the sides.
Are you talking about us trying to just wholesale it to a flipper? Or are you talking about someone else trying to sell it? So
Either way, if you were to wholesale it and you're trying to get it like turn over the properties a little bit quicker, would you think it would be a good idea to kind of fix it a little bit, being that you only got it for $6,000, and it's going to be worth a little bit more, and at least give it that curb appeal so that the person that's going to look at it say, all right, let's get this, it's looking good. There's possibility.
Honestly, no, just because they know it's a major fixture that needs to be gutted anyway. So, and it doesn't mean like when I'm wholesaling something, we don't know 100% if we're going to have a buyer for it. So if I didn't maybe plan on keeping this myself, if I couldn't find a buyer, if I put in, $1,000 to have some of this stuff trimmed up and repainted and stuff like that to look nicer, I could be potentially just risking that, whatever, $1,000 in time for not finding a buyer. Plus that buyer plans on doing a full gut renovation rehab anyway. It's not like I'm trying to sell this to someone who's going to live on it on the market. And I want to make it look really nice. Like the people buying this know that this is like a major fixer and it's not in great condition. So we wouldn't, one thing though, we would maybe want to send like a local person out there to get better pictures and maybe try to get on the inside. Like we would for sure want to do that. But making any sort of adjustments or renovations to the property right now wouldn't make sense for us, though, just to make it more appealing to a potential buyer who would be an investor that plans on fixing it up anyway. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And then one thing for Jack, I like the idea of using a whiteboard. I feel like we could help draw out what we're thinking in our head a little bit more clear using that.
Yeah, no, I like that too. And I'm sure there's some little service we can do where we can just screen share a whiteboard. Or I could have, because I was telling you I wanted to get one of those big ass whiteboards and just have it behind me. That might be kind of cool.
Yeah, kind of like put those numbers up,
Yeah.
like lay it all out, and it's like, I don't know, sometimes like when you see here and it's kind of like
Totally.
You can
Yeah.
be able to pick
Yeah.
it up there.
I think Zoom has a whiteboard right there.
Does it?
Yeah, on that taskbar where it says share screen, record, all that, on the very right has a whiteboard option.
Oh,
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll mess with that. I'm not the most tech savvy, man. I gotta get better with that.
Oh,
Um,
good, man.
and then just in terms of time's sake here,
Let's do a
we
quick analysis and just explaining how we're able to pick up that other deal.
Bridgestone.
Yeah, just briefly, because I know we talked about it
Yeah.
before.
So I'm not gonna put the numbers. Should I?
Why not? If
Okay. Yeah. So because we still wanted to go. Well, we'll probably run 10 minutes later. I guess doesn't matter. I'm totally fine. I got plenty of time this morning.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate you guys.
Yeah, no, of course.
Thank
So
you so much.
let's see here. So Bridgestone. So we had this one under contract like a month ago, early November. We weren't getting a ton of great feedback from buyers. They walked it. It needs a little bit of light cosmetic work. Like doesn't look bad, but like pink walls, old carpet. It's totally rent ready and livable, but you know, it could really weird colors. I don't know. I didn't even notice that, Alex, that the kitchen's like green and then the bedrooms are pink. So you definitely probably would want to repaint it if you want to try to get as much money as possible as a rental. In decent shape though, right? Just some new paint, and that's probably it. The agent also didn't do the best of jobs with pictures. I don't know what this is, but in the house, one other thing to notice too, like Alex and I mentioned this, is so you can look at comps. Comps can be telling you one thing, but another thing that's important is if something's on market and it's listed at 350K and it only has 4 saves and it's been on market for this is over 3 months now, this house is not worth 350K. The market's telling you that this house isn't worth 350K. Probably nowhere near 350K because it only has 4 saves and it's getting little traction. So when I looked at PropStream though on comms, it looked like it was showing close to 350, but we're technically selling it at I think 325 is the entry with the remaining mortgage balance. And Alex, can you shoot me those numbers really quickly or just say them out loud? So I know we got 350K is the list price. What's the underlying mortgage? 300?
304.
304.
You could put like 35 or 3,000.
Okay. 35. Oh, geez. 3,500. Cash to seller. So originally we had it, I think it was like 10K cash to seller, and then the agent's commission was 10 or 11K, something like that. And with those, I'll show the original numbers. So the cash to seller was 11,000, and then agent's commission was, we'll say right there, just under 10K. So it was like a 9%, almost a 10% entry fee for I think we were selling it at 20. Was it 29 or 30? I forgot where we were trying to sell it,
I
Alex.
think it was actually 2% agent commission because I think it was like 19 plus our like $6,000 assignment. Because
No. Oh. Got you. Yeah. Yeah. For some reason, I thought LaKendra was making like 9 or 10. I think it was 3 because she took a fat hit on her commission. Really?
Yeah, I remember what it
Okay.
was.
Got you. Okay. Maybe that's right then.
This was a 6% interest or 5.99. So it was a higher interest. What we liked about it is that it was breaking even as a long-term rental.
And the location.
And the location. So even though the interest rate on this one was high, it doesn't really matter because the property was still breaking even as a long-term rental, which is pretty surprising for it being such a high interest rate.
Yeah. And that's what because we were like, interest rate, not the greatest, but at the same time, with it breaking even, I think the PITI was 2,700 and rental comps are like 2,900. So that's pretty much a break even right there. And with it being a fairly low entry fee below 10% and it being in Houston, which is a hot market, technically it shows Spring, Texas, but Spring is right here in the Houston area. So with it being in a hot market, I was like, there's no reason it shouldn't move. We had a handful of people walk it, didn't get great feedback. Still was maybe hope we could move it if we cut down our assignment to like nothing. But there ended up actually being some title issues. So which was kind of perfect because it gave us a chance to kind of pull back and say, hey, we can't move forward with this. let me know if you get them resolved. They got the title issues resolved, and then we pitched a retrade. And then we got it at, basically Alex told the agent like, hey, we can't be in any more than $12,000 on this. Figure it out however you want to do it. So then the agent and sellers decided they were just going to get $6K each. So basically, let me just drop this down slightly. Okay, that's close enough. So, because if you screw with this and if you change this, it screws up the whole thing. So basically now it went from like a 10% entry to a oh well, let me remove closing costs, because when we're marketing it, we're just putting plus closing costs. So now it's turned to a well, actually, let me tell you exactly what it is. I don't know why I'm saying this, because we actually already sold it. We already got someone who signed an assignment. They just signed it yesterday. Of course, they have to submit EMD, non-refundable, before it's legit, because our Chandler deal, we had 2 people sign assignments and then they went ghost. So those aren't sold deals because we don't have EMD. So we're trying to figure out what we're doing with that. But this one I think will easily move because it's so dang cheap. A 5-bed, 3-bath house built in 2007 in Houston that breaks even as a long-term rental. If you can get that for 18 grand, 18,500 is what we sold it for. Almost a 5% entry fee. That's freaking that's actually like a really good deal.
Yeah.
Like really good deal.
And like without our assignment for Jack and I to close on it, it's
That'd be crazy.
12,000 plus.
Dude, a 3.8% entry, bro. That's
So we would have
absurd.
closed on it like ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, if that interest rate was lower, dude, we should totally swoop that. If it was like a 4 or 3 or something. I don't want a 5.99 though, and then having to do some work to it too. But yeah, so that was kind of like a follow-up game, and eventually it came back around. The seller, I already knew from the first conversation, they were super motivated, and then having the title issues and us kind of backing out and coming back into play and then pitching a retrade, it kind of was set up perfectly for us to be able to do that. So yeah, just wanted to touch on that quick. Alex, I don't know, do you want to screen share kind of those the new things we're doing if I throw you host? Because I don't have any of that stuff pulled up.
Yeah, I got you.
Cool.
You might have to give me oh wait, actually, I could just wait, I can't. Oh wait, yeah, I can.
Dude, I gotta get this lighting fixed, man. I complain about it every time.
Maybe Santa will get it for you this year. Let me see.
I can send you some lights over, bro. Which ones to buy?
Awesome, cool, man. Yeah, I'm seeing in the chat. Yeah, Nancy, or anyone, you know what? We could start prioritizing people in the group as buyers as well, you know?
Yeah, I definitely want to buy and hold for deals like this. Like if you can rent for long term and then break even with the interest rate lower and the entry fees low, then that's a good hold. So I would like that.
Okay.
So let us know next time.
Definitely. Yeah. You know what? We should do that. We should have available deal section. We can add that to Discord,
Yes.
available deal.
Yeah,
Yes,
that would be
doing that.
great. Yes, you guys are so helpful. We appreciate you. So making business with you, making you money as well, and then
Yeah.
helping us, that would be so amazing.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
That's for sure. And then we can, because for me, I'm in California. If we buy deals out state, then you know, maybe in this group we have people like property manager or whatever, so we have whole business going here.
Yeah. No, definitely. We'll definitely start we'll definitely do that and add a buyer's section or available deals in our group too. That's a good
Yes.
idea.
Yeah.
Good idea. Good call, Nancy. Good call.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah.
Because Alex and I, we kind of have a buyer's list that we blast deals out to. We'll post them in Facebook groups. We'll post them on Investor Lift. But yeah, well, we can definitely start posting them here because I know there's a decent amount of gators and also people that are just looking for their own deals to buy too. And you know, we'd much rather sell deals to people here in our group than
Because we definitely trust you guys better than, you know, strangers out there that we could buy from. So we trust you guys to buy properties from.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, plus it'll be like more of a hands-on learning for us as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you're sharing the deal, and whoever's purchasing it, like we're learning also
Yeah.
as and it's a hands-on kind of
Yeah,
learning.
you can use that as a case study here too.
Yeah, no, that'd be awesome. I was thinking that too. And if someone purchased one, they could then, present their exit strategy and how it went and what they're doing on a Zoom. And we were actually going to do that with someone who bought a deal from us like a month ago, and he was going to pad split it. Once he's finished, I want him to come on and share like the renovation and the whole experience. But if we had someone in the group already, say one of you guys sourced the deal and then ended up buying it, that would be like a really cool story. So
Yeah, that'd be
yeah,
great. That'd be great. I would love to do that.
awesome. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course. Thanks for sharing that. And then Alex, if you want to take the floor.
Yeah, and so because it's the holidays and everyone could use some quick cash, Jack and I thought it was a good idea to essentially pay for qualified leads that are being submitted going forward. And so it'll be just a $50 bonus. We'll send you it through Zelle or a check as of right now. There could be other options depending on if either of those don't work. And so what a qualified lead is for a cash deal, we want the seller, the agent, to already be warmed up to entertaining an offer at around 60% of ARV. Because if you're just submitting cash deals that they're saying, yeah, we're open to offer, it's like I could go on Zillow, like Jack said, and just click one of these and say, hey, are you interested in a cash offer? And it's pretty easy to do that. So that's why we want to have these standards, so it's a little bit more qualified and we're both on the same page of what we're looking for. And then for creative deals, whether it's the seller or agent, we want them to be open to the idea of creative finance. And also, if you could have a mortgage statement or just have a clear answer on what the monthly payment is, so the PITI, what the existing loan balance is, and then also the interest rate. And so that is what we're considering qualified leads. And so yeah, anything else, Chuck?
Yeah, and just like Alex said, I made a video on this too, and it's not trying to be like discouraging, because when I was starting out doing this, I was kind of the same way. Like my mentor, I'd be like, oh, I just spoke with this person. He said he wants to sell. This was like direct to seller stuff though. He wants this much money. I think we have a deal here. And then like my mentor then shows me, he's like, well, look at these comps, look at this. Like they're asking 100,000 more than what the house is worth. Like this isn't a deal. And then I'm just like, oh shoot. And that's kind of the same with the on market stuff. Like I could go on Zillow, hit houses for sale. I could close my eyes and just point my finger on a map. And if I called that agent, they're going to tell me, because of course, if the house is listed, there's motivation there. So they're going to tell me there was divorce, this situation happened, they just want to sell the house. And then if we're submitting a lead like that, that's not even a lead. That's, unless they said, yeah, they want to sell it super quick, they'll take pennies on the dollar for it, or they just need someone to come over and take over their mortgage. Like that's the kind of stuff we're targeting. And if we're not getting anything like Alex specifically said, like someone who's open to a super low cash offer, or, terms in terms of a creative deal and giving the mortgage statement and getting all those numbers in place, then it's really not a lead. Because just because something's listed on market or someone wants to sell, we could find tens of thousands of those all day long. Yeah.
And then with this is like another incentive to make calls and try to run into more problems, because the more questions you have about real estate, or just whether it's cash or creative, it's a good sign that you are probably learning. And so just by taking small action steps, there will be a little bit more reward. And not only will it be like a money reward, but you'll just become sharper on your skills and be able to close and just source more deals.
Yeah, definitely. And then I think we're good on that, right, Alex? Any questions from anyone on that before we jump? Because I wanted to touch on well, I guess you can't since you're screen sharing, but also like the follow-up, being more clear on that.
Yeah, and so we also added a follow-up script, because Jack and I are following up on all of our leads, and especially if they're hot and we think there's a deal there, we're gonna stay on top of it. But there's some deals that, yeah, it could be that maybe the seller isn't motivated enough. So it doesn't mean there's not a deal there. It just means that it might just need a little bit more attention. And so if both Jack and I and whoever submitted the lead is hitting up the agent or the seller, it will just keep them, it will have us on their mind. And so it'll essentially just lead to more deals. So following up is really crucial in this space.
Yeah, definitely. And I made a Loom video on that too that we'll add to the recordings of how to follow up specifically and how we want to approach these. So you'll basically just be looking at the lead tracker. I don't know if you added it, Alex, because I literally just sent it to you this morning, I think.
I did.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Yeah. So basically just going to the lead tracker, seeing kind of the status with your leads. And of course, like the super hot ones, we're going to be super on top of. But then like Alex was saying, there are some where it's just like, as this builds out and as there's more and more leads, you know, we still, which I know a lot of you are anyway, we still want to be following up with our leads and just seeing what the current status is. Like, because with us, you know how these agents are. A lot of the times you call them once or twice and they don't answer. You try calling 2 days later, they don't answer. So if Alex and I try calling once, they don't answer, then the next day, if you called just at a random different time, there's a higher likelihood of us making contact with them. And it's as simple as just following up with them, checking in and seeing where they're currently at with the offer we submitted, or if the sellers change their mind or whatever it may be. It's going to vary by scenario, of course. But definitely important for everyone to kind of start doing that if you haven't already been doing that. Yeah.
And then with follow-up, it's important to push for the deal to go towards the next step. But if it doesn't work, that's okay. And if it's an agent, just try to build rapport. And if it's not that deal that you're going to close on, maybe they'll find something in a month and send it over. So it just important to stay on top of these agents and sellers' mind, just so that they send us deals when they come across anything.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And maybe next week we do some more specific sales training on follow-up, and also just kind of, I think we have like a sales training Zoom specifically for that, just for also to like setting the stage and pre-framing things. Because I've listened to some more calls from other people too. And yeah, I think that's something that could be helpful in terms of just like the overall flow of the call. Like we could do that on Tuesday before the role play. I think that'd be good, because we could also role play like follow-up calls too, even. But yeah, I think we could definitely touch on that. And was there something, were those the last two things, Alex, I think, right? Or was there one other thing we wanted to touch on?
Honestly, I think
I think that was it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Any last questions or anything from anyone here today?
Where can I access these two documents you just showed?
In our helpful documents, are you in the Discord or?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If you want to look in the team section, helpful documents. Both those documents will be in there. And if anyone doesn't have it, send the link.
Cool.
Cool. Well, thank you for everyone being here, and Jack and I both really appreciate you giving us the opportunity to help guide you in the right direction.
Thank you, guys. We appreciate you.
Yes,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
You guys are
I have one
pros.
question, guys. I have one that he's been approaching me, but it's in Houston, Texas. It's a 28 unit. It's bringing back between 200 to 220, but they wanted to see if they can talk to both of you guys. I guess Alex and Jack, or anybody else that may be interested in that.
Yeah, we can
You guys, yeah, I mean, it's bringing really good money. It looks like a really, really good deal.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure how to explain it properly, so I would prefer he can actually do a Zoom and explain, and he shows all the paperwork, all the numbers, everything in full detail.
And it's a cash deal, or?
It's a 28 unit multiplex. Like you would own the 28 unit. You would put down, they're wanting $10,000 down. But you already have like the property management, you have like everything at
Wait,
hand.
10,000 down?
Yeah, let's definitely discuss this later. I think
Yeah. Let's get a contract now if they only want 10K down. Yeah.
Yeah, and they have property management, like everything's is like there. I don't know, it just like looks, I'm just trying to wholesale it.
Yeah.
That's for and learn, as a wholesaler, maybe you guys can teach
Totally.
a little bit out of that. But yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to set up the appointment. I wanted to know like what's your availability.
Yeah, honestly, just text us. Text us. Yeah, our numbers are there if you don't have it already in the Discord.
Mhm.
Just add Alex and I both in a text, and you could just shoot us a text and we could set something up pretty
Okay.
soon.
Yeah, as soon as I can, because I have like I explained it to him and he's been calling me, and then he literally like texted me around 12:59 last night. We were still up anyways, but I was like, oh my gosh, I got to get to them, but I didn't want to be rude and call you guys that late.
Yeah, I mean, anyone at any time, feel free to text me. I'm usually up super late. Yeah, but yeah, if we want to do that, we could totally hop on a call or just get some more info on it and have a chat about it, because that sounds like something sounds off. Him only wanting 10K down.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted. Yeah, but he said he would show it in the Zoom. He had other people that they've been looking for more investors, and it was a really interesting.
Maybe it's like I'm guessing the 10K down. Then my guess is it's like a guru, well, not a guru guy, but like a crowdfunding where he's looking for investors to put 10K down to get a portion of the apartment complex. That's my guess. I don't think it's hey, 10K down, you get the whole place to yourself, seller finance. That's just my guess, but I could be wrong.
Yeah,
Probably a syndication or something.
I don't know. It'll be better for him to explain it to you.
Gotcha.
Okay. The numbers work though. I mean, the numbers individually, they work. So if you were to invest, I guess 10K, it's 28. You would get 28 units. That's how much income you would get. It's like hands off. You don't even have to worry about. They do all the property management. All you do is collect the check.
Awesome.
It looks like a good deal, but I just wanted you guys to look at it since you guys have more experience and and understanding in that field than I do. So
yeah, definitely send over some info. Happy to check it out for
I
sure.
just need like the time you want me to set up the appointment, the Zoom meeting and all that.
Yeah. Let's definitely talk more about that after this. Because my thing is, if it's like a syndication, I'm probably not interested. But if it's like hey, it's a seller finance 10K down on this apartment complex, then that's something that is super interesting that we could wholesale. But it sounds like it's probably like crowdfunding syndication type scenario where he's just looking for investors to come in and yeah, that's just my assumption.
Okay. All right. I'll get back with you guys and I'll send you a text and then the Zoom link, if that's okay.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Great.
All right. Thank you guys, and thank you for everything you guys, all the teaching. We really appreciate that.
Of course. Yeah, I appreciate everyone.
Hey, Alice and Jack.
Yeah.
Hey, Ricky Hine, brother.
Hey, Ricky, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. I just trying to see y'all have a Discord set up.
Yes,
this
sir.
My first time.
Okay, perfect.
I just seen y'all telling me about y'all this type of Zoom y'all be doing.
Yeah, you don't have the Discord link? I can send that to you right now. Let me see here. I'll drop it in the chat. And then Austin, I just read your comment. Yeah, we actually did that. We spoke with that agent. She's gonna reach out to that buyer who bought that comp directly a couple of streets away. But that's a really good point you mentioned there. That's something always good to do, to reach out to local agents in that area too who've sold those comps or have similar listings. I just threw that in the chat for you there, Ricky, the Discord link.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. Cool, everyone. Well, I appreciate everyone's time here today. I'm gonna get going now. Gotta get some breakfast, a little bit of a late start.